Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, Purple Line completion, delayed again. What impact will changes to Obamacare have on the Maryland healthcare system? A provocateur enters the Montgomery County Executive's race. And did the International Women's Day prove a point, or was it just another day off for the teachers union? Stay tuned. Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by the oracle of Democratic politics, Sam Statland, education activist, Cynthia Rubenstein, media consultant, Jerry Cave, and industrialist and former Maryland Assistant Secretary of Business, William Askinazi. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. In the United States today, the need to invest in U.S. infrastructure is overwhelmingly endorsed, but nothing ever seems to be built. According to Richard Lafrac, appearing on CNBC, it's regulations and arduous approval process that are killing much-needed projects. He further noted that the American Society of Civil Engineers rated America's infrastructure system as a D+ among industrial nations. How does this relate to our fair state? Well, take, for example, the Purple Line, a 16-mile light rail transit linking Bethesda, Silver Spring, College Park, and New Carrollton, which was first conceived, boys and girls, in 1995. 20 years later, Governor Hogan approved the construction for the project to be completed in 6 years. But now we learn in the Washington Post that construction has been delayed in court because of challenges to its environmental plan, and will further be delayed because of federal laws protecting migratory birds. Bill, the transcontinental railroad spanning 1,900 miles was built in 6 years from 1863 to 1869, overcoming such obstacles as hostile Indians, the Rocky Mountains, and oh, by the way, the Civil War. So why does it take so long to build infrastructure in Maryland?
Yeah. Amazing, isn't it? When you have a select group of people with a very vocal voice, they can take hostage otherwise very noble and very empowering projects. Look at the ICC. ICC was held up for 40 years, and finally Governor Ehrlich built this 17-mile stretch. Not a bird was harmed, not a snail was damaged, and everybody seems to love it. The other thing is there was a snail darter case. The United States Supreme Court, I don't know if you remember that, a little fish under the Endangered Species Act held up a $200 million project. At the time, Senator Baker stepped in and exempted the dam, which was 95% complete, from the rigors of the act. It's a matter of shifting the balance back to the states, having some sense to regulatory reform, and cutting back on the rights of appeals that these select activist groups can have. Then you'll get things done.
All right, let's go to Sam. Sam, John Fitzgerald, the plaintiff in the lawsuit opposing the Purple Line construction, claims that he and the other opponents aren't trying to hold up the Purple Line, but are merely trying to protect the environment and the national capital area. Do we really need these self-appointed, self-anointed activists blocking desperately needed transit projects?
You know, Casey, Congress this week passed tort reform, and part of what they passed were frivolous lawsuits where the plaintiff could be fined for bringing these kinds of action. And this is a perfect example of a small vocal group of people, just like Bill was just saying, are going out there trying to block this project. I hear behind the scenes that there's actually a contest going on where there's money on the line to see if it can be extended more than 40 years, surpassing the ICC.
You mean you want to be in that betting pool?
Oh, I'm in it.
Well, I think it's amazing, but the question is, can anything be really done? I mean, the federal courts have taken over these projects and are blocking these projects relentlessly. That's the biggest problem.
Casey, there really was tort reform introduced in Congress. That's serious. And if that passes and the president signs it, you might see an end to these types of frivolous, very costly delay projects.
That's a great, you know
what?
The
president also can waive the regulatory requirements on some of the impact statements, I believe. Jerry.
The bigger issue is that most of the people in the state of Maryland don't want to spend money that would benefit Montgomery County, especially if it would help migratory Marylanders migrate into Montgomery County.
That's stretching.
Okay.
That's a stretch.
That's how ridiculous the whole thing is.
Well,
the Purple
okay.
Line is a very cost-inefficient way to move people in the first place, so it's probably not the best way to do it, but they are going to obfuscate on this as much as
You know
they
what?
can.
I got to
You
tell
know,
you,
the Purple Line
you know,
happens to
there's
be a
been-
You
there's
know what?
never
It would be
been-
a lot
there's
better
never
if they
been
would
a
just
construction
discount.
project I haven't liked.
If they would
So,
discount the
but I'll
ICC,
tell
it
you,
would be better.
I'll tell you, the Purple Line will prove invaluable 40 years from now when it's finally completed, to move all of the millennials that are living in Bethesda and Silver Spring to College Park for college.
Listen, when Donald
But you
Trump,
have to penalize. You have
We
to
gotta wrap it up,
Okay,
30
but you have to
seconds.
penalize a group. I totally agree. And there's got to be some, people have to pause before they file these frivolous lawsuits, and there's got to be a penalty to their pocketbook.
it's a major change in American law.
All right, we'll follow those changes if they actually occur. When the Affordable Care Act was passed 6 years ago, congressional Republicans vowed to repeal it, even though it was generally accepted that Obamacare extended coverage to as many as 20 million Americans who were not provided health care previously. Despite the expansion of the coverage, Obamacare proved controversial. Premium costs and deductibles rose rapidly, so many Americans labeled the bill the Unaffordable Health Care Act. This week, Republicans rolled out a new plan to replace the flawed ACA, but providing a perfect system may be elusive. Sam, the American healthcare system represents approximately 20% of the entire U.S. economy. So is it possible to create a workable plan?
It's very, very difficult, and some of the issues that we're going to talk about tonight on the show impact because of the Affordable Care Act. Before the Affordable Care Act, we had about 120,000 uninsured just in Montgomery County. Now we have about 20,000 uninsured in Montgomery County. People are getting access and they're getting health care, which we all need for a good, fast, educated growth society. If we go back, we're going to lose that. And what will happen is we're going to have more people going into Medicaid if we have funds for Medicaid, and therefore we're going to have more people uninsured, a lot more uninsured, and we're going to have to go to groups that can deliver that kind of care, which the Primary Care Coalition is ready to do.
Bill, one of the most controversial aspects of the Republican bill are the changes to Medicaid, which Sam just touched on. How is Maryland and Montgomery County going to be impacted by these changes?
Yeah, I mean, we'll be impacted. I mean, the question is who's going to pay for it? The Republicans want to roll back the so-called Medicaid expansion under Obama. And they want to roll it back, not to eliminate it, but by 2020, a lot of people who are otherwise deserving of Medicaid won't be enfranchised, if you will. So there are, if you're making $17,000 or less, which is, of course, we want to have a safety net for these people and keep them in there, but it's taking the states who are supposed to step up, and the Republicans want the federal government to go out of it. Maryland will be affected because the federal block grants will be reduced, and the state's taxes will probably be increased. But Maryland's in much better position than other states. Why? Because we're wealthier. So Maryland will have budget slicing, and they'll move a lot of budget items to cover the dollars that the federal government will not be paying.
One of the problems is it's always couched in terms of poor people needing health care go to Medicaid. In ways, that's true. But with an aging senior population, where it's costing more and more for long-term care, and it's more difficult to get that care, it's this group of people that are getting poorer and poorer as health care costs rise and rise and rise, who have become eligible significantly to participate in Medicare. And
Well,
I'm sorry,
we'll-
in
we'll
Medicaid. These guys are going to lose benefits.
We'll get to that in a second. Jerry, I want to go to you because many call this bill the Rhino Care bill. And conservatives may have been fooled into believing that President Trump would deliver on his campaign promise. Hasn't President Trump proved himself to be a liberal in sheep's clothing?
You really expect me to agree with that?
Yeah.
I love you for asking me that question.
well,
I think
keep drinking
that
the
what is
Kool-Aid, baby.
really disgraceful, and the Republicans in Congress are only marginally better than the disgraceful Democrats because they have had 6 years to come up with a plan. They should have come up with a plan when George Bush was in office. But they didn't do that. They didn't come up with one in the last 6 years. So now Trump gets in there, everything he's got to deal with, and he's trying to put together this plan. And they have, as my mother would say, the unmitigated gall to criticize his policy when they have done nothing for 6 years.
all right,
And now we have
I wanna go
leadership
to
in the
Cynthia
House,
before
leadership in the
we'll
Senate, and a Republican president.
Right.
They've got the tools. They've got the power to make changes to the Affordable Care Act, but the problem is political because they know if they make the changes that they're talking about, they are not going to get reelected.
All right.
And the Democrats 2 years from
Cynthia.
now will overwhelmingly take back the House and the Senate.
Cynthia, Sam may
I
be,
want some of the
Sam
drugs
may
that
be
Sam's
right for a
taking.
change, that the Republicans are in big trouble because the plan so far as proposed doesn't seem to answer and solve a lot of the questions. But California, Vermont are now considering their own single-payer health care plan. Is that something we should undertake?
I think any Maryland legislator within earshot of this broadcast is probably thinking about it right now, especially in this climate. I wouldn't be surprised if that subject were broached in the legislature. Listen, and so let's talk about single-payer systems. Medicare is a single-payer system. Ask any Medicare recipient, they like that single-payer system.
But it's all.
If they can find somebody who takes it.
It's the
Oh,
fun.
wait a
it's the-
second now. Let's
it's
not
the
go
fun-
there.
It's the funding, because we've paid into Medicare over several years.
And if you're self-employed, you had to pay twice.
Shifting to a single-payer system may be expensive, but it may be something that we need. There are several industrialized countries that do this. Germany, Japan. We ought to think about it. 'cause
We ought to think
I got
about
to tell you,
If the president and Congress really want to be bold and
Finish
they
it up.
really want to change the system, what they need to do is immediately go to a single-payer system for everyone in this country.
And I think every Republican
Jerry,
should take
thanks,
Democratic
Jerry.
advice.
We're going to break. When we come back from this break, Republican firebrand Robin Ficker throws his hat into the race, and local impact from International Women's Day. Stay tuned. And welcome back. The race to succeed Ike Leggett, who announced that after serving 3 terms, he would not run in 2018, has most eyes focused on the members of the county council who plan to run and replace him. But this week, the disruptor-in-chief himself, Robin Ficker, best known for passage of the term limit ballot initiative last November, announced that he was running as a Republican. Cynthia, to date, Roger Berliner, Mark Elrich, and George Leventhal are running on the Democratic side, and there are rumors that millionaire David Trone may enter the race as well. What is your view of the contest, even though it's in its very early stage?
Well, there's an excellent article in Bethesda Magazine by Lou Peck about the race, and in addition to the 3 that you have mentioned, there are others who are waiting in the wings and trying to decide, including Craig Rice and possibly Sid Kramer's son, Ben Kramer. But this is how I see the race. Mark Elrich, according to the article, is seen as somewhat of a front runner at this point, and that makes the business community and developers very, very nervous. In a crowded primary, you could win the primary with 24, 25% of the voters. Maybe 25% of registered Democratic voters vote in those off presidential year primaries, and that means super activist Democrats come to the polls. So business community advocates are looking for someone to counter this, and they are maybe favorably looking at Mr. Trone or someone else to enter the
Roger
race.
Berliner is mining that field very heavy. He is going to all the development community, trying to raise money from the development community as the pro-business, of all things, candidate for Montgomery County. It seems a stretch, but that's how
Correct.
he's spinning
Roger is a district representative, not an at-large, so he doesn't have a county-wide profile compared to a couple of the others.
Who their elected officials are, so
But
they
super
don't-
Democrats do. Super Democrats
And
do.
that's
The
important.
activists do.
I'll buy that.
Sam, let's talk about Mr. Ficker for a change. He has been very successful beyond many people's expectation in getting ballot initiatives passed. He proved that this past November. He's proven it in the past. He hasn't done so well as a candidate. Does he have a chance?
No, for the very reasons that Cynthia just talked about. This is a Democratic primary. He who wins the primary typically wins the countywide races. And the two leading candidates, therefore, are George Leventhal and Mark Elrich.
But
And
aren't
the
you
two of
afraid?
them-
But aren't you
you are
afraid
really-
that there's
the two
going to
of
be a
them will-
reaction?
Pardon?
Aren't you afraid there's going to be a reaction from the voters of Montgomery County who are tired to see their
In a
tax-
general election, yes. In the
ta-
Democratic
well,
primary, no.
Well, Ficker's going to. If
He's
Ficker's
not
running
gonna-
as a Republican, if he runs against Mark Elrich, don't you think he has a chance to win?
The activists will turn out more votes because then you get into a situation where you have 2-1 Democrat over Republicans.
Yeah, but you know what? If the people of Montgomery County are supposed to be so smart, they might focus in on the fact that this is a one-industry town, which is government, and it is run from the presidency to the House to the Senate by the Republican Party, and there's no elected Democrats, Republicans,
God. Jerry,
anywhere in the
yeah.
footprint.
Jerry,
So
Jerry,
if they
nobody
had
cares.
their brains screwed on straight, they would do that.
let me-
But you have not pointed out enough about David Trone. He's got so much money, he's the best candidate money could buy.
And he's thinking of slating up.
Ficker was basically responsible for the term limits. Let's not forget that. And he pulls the curtain down. He's not, for what we all say about Robin Ficker, he's an activist in the truest sense of the word, and he illuminates issues that other people won't touch. So I think that the Democrats in their primary are going to be facing issues that they don't necessarily want to talk about that he may bring to light. What that'll do is it may bring out the independent vote, and it could shift the dynamics of who the favorite is, and there's a lot of undercurrents here.
In
I
reality,
think you're absolutely right because he will bring out those issues that nobody else wants to talk about.
In reality,
Wrap it
two
up.
measures. Number
Wrap it up.
one, supermajority to increase taxes, Robin Ficker. Number two, term limits, Robin Ficker.
Right.
So Robin does deliver a message. The question is whether he can turn that on.
And
in a
be
general
and be
election.
a fine
We're both-
candidate.
we-
It's
we
fine
gotta
for him to
get
be
it
an
right.
activist on an issue, but he has to bring his personality forth as a campaigner and
you can
an
see
elect-
what you can see what passion he brings to the table because of the way we're talking about it. Let's hit our last topic. International Women's Day. It was celebrated on March 8th, resulting in school systems in the District of Columbia, Alexandria, and Prince George's County to shut down. A day without women's strike was orchestrated by activists who wanted to prove how vital women are to the economy through their absence. Cynthia, 57% of America's workforce are women. So did the Socialist Party of America, who organized the first National Women's Day, succeed in demonstrating how important women are to the economy?
First of all, you have to differentiate between a day without a woman and International Women's Day. International Women's Day was organized by a very, very long time ago by a socialist arm. A day without a woman
And
was
this wasn't-
organized
and
by
this
the
wasn't-
women who organized the Women's March. And I disagreed with the whole premise and the strategy of this women's strike on Wednesday. School systems that weren't operating put parents in the lurch, including mothers and other working women. I thought it was the wrong strategy. And I wore red on that day and commemorated by respecting and posting about women of accomplishment, but I thought it was absolutely wrong for a strike.
Okay. Bill, 84% of rocket scientists are men, as are 83% of the polices, 84% of computer hardware engineers, and 92% of all firefighters. What would be the impact on the economy if there was a day without men strike?
Casey, first of all, thank you for that wonderful hypothetical. I think it would be great for the economy. I think it would be great for world peace. I'll tell you why. Men, if you listen
What
to...
are you running for Miss
Yeah,
America?
Listen to this. Listen to this. A little bit sarcastic here, but tongue-in-cheek. If you listen to the women activists who are out there, men are generally lazy Cretan creatures, and they're very warlike. So number one, if the men stay home one day, there'll be less war. There'll be less violence. They'll be eating a lot of food, so the economy will prosper. So where do we really draw this line? It was a waste of time. Instead of telling your children, especially your daughters, to stay home from work, you're supposed to bring them to work and show them the benefits of this. Let's stop masquerading it's another anti-Trump parade. That's all this was, and it was dressed up in the guise of feminism, so it would be more palatable to the masses.
I think it was beyond an anti-Trump parade. It was about women trying to carry forth the movement on the Women's March and to highlight issues that still have not been taken care of for women.
Feminism was taken care of with Gloria Steinem in the 70s and 80s.
Oh, no,
and
we
if
are
we keep
not done.
If we
We are
keep
so not
talking about
done.
that, we're showing the younger people that true equality is through merit and through action. Let's not go back.
Oh, no,
and
there are
keep
institutional
protesting.
things
Let's
that
protest.
keep women down
Protest
that,
everything.
that need to be
in my
brought to the
industries,
fore.
the finance industry, which includes the insurance industry, there's definitely still a very, very hard glass ceiling out there, which my daughter has shattered, and with friends of hers have shattered because they work together successfully in the business field. I would like to see more emphasis on equality in jobs, which of course brings equality in pay, but competence. It's competence.
It is.
And
I
think
agree
there's
with Sam.
too
It
many
ought to be on
times-
competence.
It is.
But no,
Right.
no, that's not what we have. We still have today what we had 40 years ago, which is affirmative action, which is giving jobs to people because of their sex, their creed, their color. That's ridiculous. We ought to have a meritocracy, period.
But
Men, women, whatever, meritocracy.
But human beings have implicit bias, and it includes implicit bias
That's why you
when
have a
with
meritocracy
women.
with
Change that
performance
bias
in
metrics.
industries, in institutions,
For
and
40 years, we've had affirmative action, which means guys, you go to the back of the line, women come to
Wrong.
the front of the line,
Men
and now
are
we
not
gotta
at the
say,
back of the
and now we
line.
got to say, oh,
That
we
is
can't do that,
self-evident.
huh?
men are not at the back of the line.
Oh,
It's
yeah, they are.
self-evident that
Oh,
they
yeah,
are
they are.
not.
They-
Look at any
they-
corporate boardroom in America.
There's more factors involved in just that, but when you are a guy going to get a job, you are at a disadvantage because of affirmative action.
And it's another thing.
100% wrong on that, Jerry.
We should be through or past identity politics. That's the
Yes.
big problem with the
God
Democratic
bless
Party.
you.
You're going to pit now gender against gender after we've just gone through black versus white, Jew versus Gentile, rich versus poor. That's another thing that we need to have another demonstration to illuminate the differences we have in America.
The
gotta wrap it
argument
up, boys
is
and
about
girls.
leveling the
playing
playing
field.
field.
We've
For
heard
40
that since
years
the
is not
70s.
enough?
No,
Well,
it's not
affirmative
enough
action-
for
not
centuries.
happening.
It'll never be enough.
Let me put it to you.
Look,
there was
just
this
to start,
start
we can
and a
agree on one
trade.
thing: no Irish.
All right, I agree to that. Stay tuned for Parting Shots. And welcome back. Now with Parting Shots, Bill Askinazi.
Thank you, Casey. I'd like to give a commendation to the Maryland Medicinal Cannabis Commission. These are a group of commissioners who are appointed by the governor. They're school teachers, they're parents who have children with epilepsy, and the only medicine that has now been legalized to help them is medical cannabis. They have crafted the laws, they've avoided lawsuits, and finally, after 24 years, we might have a true medicine in the state of Maryland.
Thank you, Bill. Sam Statland, your parting shot.
Well, folks, at this time of the year, March Madness is upon me. And it really impacts because I have two great teams that I want to see in the Final Four. Go Heels, go Terps. Take it all.
Thank you, Sam. Cynthia Rubenstein, your parting shot.
Okay, I'm going to brag a little bit tonight because Passion for Learning has an alum who was selected as a top teen and is featured in Bethesda Magazine this month, along with 11 other illustrious high school students. So please go out and get Bethesda Magazine and read about Yushabel Sanon of Blair High School.
Well, congratulations, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Jerry Cave, your parting shot.
This week I had 2 servings of the most delicious dish I hope to ever eat. So I have one of my family members I admire the most and really just hated Donald Trump so much I couldn't talk to him for 12 days after the election. And he called me this week and says, oh man, I really like the numbers in the stock market since he's been elected. And then I was talking to this young lady who's like part of the family, and I admire her a great deal too, and she hated Donald Trump. And she goes, I hated Donald Trump as a candidate, but you know, I really like what he's doing as president. And I'm just going to be eating that for the next 8 years as Donald Trump continues to be successful. And the only thing is when I get to put a little seasoning on it is when the liberals sit there and go, oh God, he is being successful. I hate that. He is so delicious. Y'all try some.
Are you eating humble pie?
Not these days.
Well, I want to say that here it is, March 10th, and the weather outside is colder than it was in January. I know this is distressing to many people, especially to myself, because I'm going to be playing golf tomorrow in an opening day tournament when it's 37 degrees.
Good luck.
Otherwise, I will lose my man card. So I just hope the warm winds are blowing from somewhere tomorrow. They're blowing my way. I want to thank the panel for being here. I want to thank the audience for tuning in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest hitting little talk show. I'm Casey Aiken. Even I can't say that. Straight young Casey.
You don't
Good. They do good.